Welcome to the Mad.Forensic.Scientist channel. If you have not watched the previous episode, The Basics of Toxicology, I recommend you following this link and watching before you return here. If you have watched the previous episode, or you're just a fan of Q&A sessions, then enjoy this video, but be sure to click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of our future adventures. Enjoy, and if you have any questions, now is the time to take them as we are now opening up to the chat. We have a question from the chat. It is, how important is it for toxicologists to consider metabolism? That's a very good question. That's very important for a toxicologist to consider metabolites when they are doing an extraction. So oftentimes the detection methods we use are targeted, so we know what we're trying to see from the analysis. However, there are non-target analysis methods. So if you're using a targeted method, you need to know your metabolites beforehand. If you're only looking for a parent molecule or not looking for the appropriate metabolites, then in a targeted method, you're just going to miss them. So it's very important to know if you have metabolites, if you are using a targeted method. Hopefully, if you have a non-targeted method, then it won't matter as much. Does the matrix affect what kind of analytes we find and test for? Yes. So that's a very good question. That's something that we'll definitely address in future talks, but I'll go ahead and answer briefly here. So the matrix is going to affect what kind of analytes we test for. So when it comes to distribution of the drug as well as excretion, this is so that from the ADME, this is how we're going to determine what matrices we're going to find things in. So the distribution, how the drug partitions through the body. So if it gets stuck in oral fluid, it can partition into breast milk. If it goes into the fat tissues, then that's going to affect what analyte we're going to see, we're going to test for, as well as how it's excreted. So if it's excreted through the urine, then we're going to want to target urine. If it's excreted through fecal matter, or if it's excreted through sweat, breath, those are all those matrices, all those things are going to affect what kind of matrix and what kind of analytes we'll find in that matrix. So some metabolites, like so in instance blood, like we want to see if we want to detect if there's active use, if it's actively in the body, then we're going to test blood, and we're going to test mainly for the parent over the metabolite. However, if we want to just test for exposure, urine is a good test. And it depends on if you're testing for drugs. So I was talking specifically there kind of in drugs and metabolites. However, if you're exposed to heavy metals, blood or urine are good tests because that shows that it's persistent in the body. And we'll do tests multiple times to see if it's lingering in the body, if the half-life is causing trouble and you're not excreting it properly, or if things like that. So, and of hair testing for long-term exposure, and things of that. So it depends on your time, what you're trying to prove, what you're trying to see, what you're trying to learn from detecting the drugs in the body. So drugs are deposited for long periods of time in the hair and the nails, so we can test those. If it is a post-mortem specimen, then maybe you're testing tissue. If there's decomposition, maybe even insects. Okay, next question. What is the difference between pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics in examples? All right, we're going to leave that one for another time, but that's a very good question. So pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics impact, that's basically how a toxin, drug, or toxin is distributing through the body, or how it's affecting the body. So what the body is doing to the drug inside the body, and what the drug is doing to the body inside, or inside what the drug is doing when it's inside the body. But yes, those are all the next level. So this was Fundamentals 101, but we're going to be moving on to future talks. We're going to be digging into that kind of stuff. And yes, that's actually really good. The differences in considerations between postmortem toxicology and clinical toxicology. Even different levels of postmortem even within forensic toxicology, postmortem toxicology, and antemortem toxicology, but even within the forensic realm, is very important, and they have distinct differences. But especially postmortem to clinical, whereas clinical is typically for treatment, and postmortem obviously is for diagnosing what happened to the person after death. Those are very, very good, very important things. And we're going to be digging into other topics in the near future. So the next presentation, I believe, is going to be focused in on. The next presentation is going to be focusing in on either extractions or the specific different branches of toxicology. So we're going to dig into comparison of toxicology, clinical versus forensic, or postmortem versus clinical, and things like that. Actually, no, the next thing we're going to talk about is more chemistry, a little bit more into the chemistry aspect of toxicology. So, what basic chemistry techniques we need to know to give us the advantages to analyze in toxicology. So, toxicology is an applied chemistry. It does use fundamentals of chemistry. So, that's the next step to help you guys understand what we're doing in toxicology. So, let's take a step back a little further and dig into what it is we do in chemistry, what chemistry we use in toxicology. That's very important. It's a fundamental aspect of toxicology is the chemical. If you saw in this presentation, um, physiochemical properties as well as dose of the drug was very important for all aspects. How it processes in the body, how it distributes through the body, how it impacts the body, how it's metabolized, and how it's excreted. All of those impact. And so understanding those basic chemistry things are important to toxicology. So that's what we're going to go over next time. Once again, thanks for watching. Be sure to click that subscribe button and don't miss out on Toxicology Tuesday's playlist, and keep an eye out for our next episode.